Part 1. How to overcome laziness and procrastination. Laziness and procrastination are the two main enemies of our productivity. Many people want to be successful, to achieve their goals, but often stop because of banal laziness. Why does this happen, and how can we fight it? Let's look at it from the perspective of Stoicism and practical method. 1. Realizing the nature of laziness. The Stoics believe that every action or inaction has a cause. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you get up in the morning, say to yourself, 'Today I will meet people who are ungrateful, deceitful, self-righteous, angry, and envious. But they are like this not because they want to be bad, but because they do not know good.'" Similarly, laziness does not just appear. It can be the result of fatigue, fear of difficult work, or lack of motivation. Scientists from Carnegie Mellon University have shown that laziness is often the result of cognitive overload when the brain simply cannot effectively cope with the flow of information. 2. Dividing tasks into small steps. One of the main causes of laziness is an overwhelming task that seems complex and overwhelming. The method of small steps helps to bypass this psychological barrier. For example, instead of planning to write 20 pages of a book, set a goal to write only 1 page. A study by Stanford University found that people who use the technique of dividing tasks achieve their goals 70% more often than those who did not use this technique. 3. The 2-minute rule. This method was invented by David Allen in 4. Using the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro method is that you work for 25 minutes without a break and then rest for 5 minutes. This allows you to concentrate and not exhaust your brain. A Harvard University study showed that working with breaks increases productivity by 40% compared to continuous work. 5th Stoic concept of control. Epictetus said, "There are things that depend on us and things that do not depend on us." Laziness is not something external. It is your internal state that you can change. Ask yourself, what is in my power now? The answer is simple: take action. Psychologists from the University of California have proven that people who take responsibility for their actions have a higher level of motivation and are less prone to procrastination. 6. Building discipline through habits. Instead of relying on motivation, develop discipline. Stick to the schedule even if you don't feel like it. After a while, it will become an automatic habit, and laziness will disappear. A study by the University of London showed that it takes an average of 66 days to form a habit. 7. Visualize negative consequences. Stoics use the technique of negative visualization. Imagine what will happen if you continue to be lazy. You will miss opportunities, fail to achieve your goals, and not be satisfied with yourself. A famous experiment by Princeton psychologists showed that people who visualized their future failures were more motivated to avoid them. 8. Environment matters. Your environment greatly affects your productivity. If you are surrounded by people who do nothing, it will be difficult for you to work. Find a circle of people who motivate you to grow. In a study conducted at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, it was found that a person's productivity increases by 30% if he or she works in a team of productive people. 9. Physical activity. Regular physical activity improves brain function, increases energy levels, and helps fight laziness. Even a simple walk can boost your productivity. A study published in the journal Nature Neuro. Part 2. How to get rid of bad habits. 1. Why we form bad habits. Bad habits often arise as a way to avoid stress or get quick gratification. Scientists at the University of Cambridge have shown that habits are formed by activating the brain's dopamine system, which rewards us for certain actions. 2nd Stoic approach to habits. Seneca wrote, "We are what we constantly do." Perfection is not an action, but a habit. Stoics taught awareness and self-control, which helps to get rid of negative habits. They urged us to consider habits not as something innate, but as the result of constant action. 3. The method of replacing a habit. Instead of just giving up a habit, you need to replace it with a healthy alternative. Studies show that this method works better than just abstinence. For example, If a person is used to snacking on sweets, it is better to replace it with healthy fruits or nuts. The 21-day rule studies show that it takes about 21 days to form a new habit. The main thing is to go through this period without breakdowns. Emotional awareness, understanding their nature. Why is it important? Emotions are automatic reactions of our brain to events. They help us react quickly to danger, but often interfere with logical thinking. Controlling emotions begins with their awareness. This means the ability to recognize emotions, understand why they arose, and decide how to respond to them. Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb people, but their perception of these events." This means that the event itself is neutral, but our thoughts about it cause emotions. How do emotions work? The amygdala is the part of the brain responsible for fear, anger, and anxiety. It reacts instantly, even before you realize the situation. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for logic, self-control, and rational thinking. It acts more slowly than the amygdala. When an emotion is strong, the amygdala hijacks the brain, and you react impulsively. This is called emotional hijacking. Fact: a Yale University study, 2018, found that emotional hijacking lasts an average of 6 seconds. If you give your brain time to calm down, the prefrontal cortex will be able to rationally assess the situation. Types of emotions: the Stoics divided emotions into eupathies, positive emotions, joy, peace, arising from wisdom and virtue; patience, negative emotions, anger, fear, envy, caused by a wrong perception of events. Seneca wrote, "Anger is a short-term madness. He who controls anger controls the mind." How to learn to be aware of emotions? Keeping an emotional diary. Write down your emotions throughout the day. What you feel, when and why. Analyze what thoughts preceded these emotions. Ask yourself, does this emotion help me or hinder me? Practice mindfulness. Spend 5 to 10 minutes every day observing your thoughts. Don't try to change them, just observe them. Keep track of the physical sensations that accompany emotions. For example, tension in the shoulders when stressed. Fact: a study by Arizona State University, 2020, found that daily mindfulness practice reduces anxiety by 32%. Example of application in life. Situation: you were criticized at work in front of your colleagues. Automatic reaction: anger, resentment, desire to respond rudely. Mindfulness: stop and think. I'm feeling angry because I think I'm being unfairly criticized. But is it really true? Am I exaggerating the situation? Rational analysis: perhaps the criticism was constructive, and the resentment arose from your own insecurities. Marcus Aurelius advised, if something annoys you, ask yourself, does it depend on you? If not, you shouldn't worry about it. Practical exercises to develop awareness. Name the emotion method. When you feel a strong emotion, give it a name. I'm angry now. I'm worried. I feel envious. This helps to distance yourself from the emotion and see it more objectively. The "what does this remind me of" technique. Ask yourself, have I had something like this before? How did I react then? Did that reaction help? This helps you understand whether your current reaction is logical or just an old emotional habit. Fact: a study by Stanford University, 2019, found that people who name their emotions out loud are 50% better at controlling them. How does Stoicism help? Stoicism teaches that emotions are the result of our judgments. If you change your judgment, your emotions will change. Epictetus taught, it is not events in themselves that disturb us, but our thoughts about them. Example: event: you are late for an important meeting. Judgment: this is a disaster. Now I will be considered irresponsible. Emotion: panic and anxiety. Rational reassessment: it's unpleasant, but it's not the end of the world. I can apologize and explain the reason for being late. Result: calmness and readiness to act. Acceptance of emotions: how to coexist with them rather than fight them. What is emotional acceptance? Acceptance of emotions is recognizing and allowing yourself to feel them without judgment or denial. This does not mean that you should indulge in emotions or act under their influence. Acceptance is being aware of an emotion, recognizing its existence, and being willing to let it run its course. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not what has happened to you that bothers you, but your judgment about it. Cancel the judgment and the pain will disappear." Often we try to fight our emotions, suppress anger, ignore anxiety, avoid sadness. But this only makes them worse. A Harvard Medical School study, 2017, found that suppressing emotions increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 47%. Emotions come back stronger. Repressed emotions often return later in an even stronger form. For example, if you constantly suppress anger, it can break out in the form of an outburst of aggression. Seneca said, "Anger is a short-term insanity. Whoever suppresses anger multiplies its power." Loss of emotional intelligence. Ignoring emotions leads to a loss of skills in recognizing and managing them. A person becomes less sensitive to their feelings, and therefore to the feelings of other people. How does emotional acceptance work? Emotion acceptance is the recognition that emotions are a natural response to events and do not define us as a person. An emotion is a signal, not an instruction to act. For example, anger may signal that your boundaries have been violated, but it does not mean that you have to respond aggressively. Acceptance is allowing yourself to feel without judgment. For example, instead of thinking, "I shouldn't be angry," think, "I'm angry now, and that's okay. I decide what to do with it next." Fact: a study by Stanford University, 2019, found that people who practice acceptance of emotions suffer 39% less from anxiety and depression. Stoic approach to accepting emotions. Stoicism teaches us to accept emotions without judgment and to act reasonably, not impulsively. Marcus Aurelius emphasized, "Do not avoid pain, but accept it. Then it will lose its power over you." Epictetus taught, "There are things that depend on us and things that do not depend on us." Emotions belong to the second category. This means that we cannot control the emergence of emotions, but we can control the reaction to them. Methods of accepting emotions. 1. The observer method. This is a technique for distancing yourself from emotions. It helps to stop identifying with emotions. When you feel a strong emotion, say to yourself, "I am now observing anger," or "My body is feeling anxious." This helps create distance between you and your emotions, allowing you to observe them without judgment. Fact: a University of California study, 2021, proved that practicing distancing reduces emotional reactivity by 44%. 2. The expanding space technique. This technique helps to create a pause between the onset of an emotion and the reaction to it. When you feel a strong emotion, stop for a few seconds. Take a deep breath and exhale. Ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling right now? Why do I feel this way? What reaction will I choose? This helps you to consciously choose a reaction rather than act impulsively. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Stop for a moment before you react. Find peace in yourself and only then act." 3. Practice acceptance through the breath. This is a simple but effective technique that helps to accept an emotion by experiencing it through the breath. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, focus on your breath. Inhale slowly and deeply, imagining yourself breathing in calm. As you exhale, imagine yourself breathing out tension and emotions. Allow the emotion to be without trying to change or get rid of it. Fact: a study by Oxford University, 2018, found that deep breathing techniques reduce stress levels by 30% within 10 minutes of practice. An example of application in life. Situation: you received a criticism at work that caused irritation. Typical reaction: resentment or aggression in response. Acceptance of the emotion: I feel irritated. This is natural because I perceive the criticism as an attack. But it's just an emotion that doesn't define me. Choosing a response: I will take a deep breath and respond constructively, focusing on what depends on us. The Epictetus control concept. What is Epictetus's concept of control? The Stoic Epictetus believed that our peace of mind and happiness depend on our ability to distinguish between two categories of events and situations. What depends on us? Our thoughts, beliefs, desires, actions, reactions, things that do not depend on us, the actions of other people, the weather, the political situation, past events. Epictetus said, "There are things that depend on us and things that do not depend on us. If you focus on the former and ignore the latter, you will find peace and freedom." The concept of control helps us avoid frustration, stress, and anxiety because we stop worrying about things we can't influence. Why is it important to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not? Reduce stress and anxiety. When we try to control things that would improve productivity, focusing on your own actions helps you concentrate on what really matters, rather than wasting energy on fruitless thoughts and worries. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste energy thinking about what is beyond your power. Focus on what you can do now." Strengthening self-control and responsibility. Focusing on your own actions and reactions helps you develop self-discipline and responsibility for your life. We stop blaming circumstances or other people for our failures. Stoic approach to control. The Stoics believe that events are neutral in themselves and that our attitude towards them makes them good or bad. For example, rain is just rain, but it can be a nuisance for someone and a joy for someone else. For example, a farmer. Epictetus taught, "People are not concerned with events, but with their judgment of those events." Seneca added, "If you can't change the event, change your attitude towards it." Fact, psychologists call this concept cognitive reappraisal, changing the way you look at a situation to reduce your emotional reaction. A Stanford University study, 2018, confirmed that cognitive reappraisal reduces stress levels by 35%. Methods of focusing on what is in our control. The circle of control technique. This technique helps to visually divide situations into those that are under our control and those that are not. Draw a circle. Inside, write down what depends on you: thoughts, actions, decisions. Outside the circle, write down what is out of your control: weather, other people's opinions, the past. Focus only on what is inside the circle. Fact, a University of California study, 2020, found that practicing the circle of control increases concentration and productivity by 28%. Second, Stoic questions. The Stoics used questions to separate the controllable from the uncontrollable. Does it depend on me? What can I do now? How can I influence it? How can I change my attitude towards it? If the answer is no, let go of the situation. If it is positive, take action. Epictetus said, "If you can't change the event, change your attitude towards it." 3. Reformulating thoughts. This is a cognitive reassessment technique that helps to change a negative perception of events to a neutral or positive one. Instead of, "Why did this happen to me?" ask yourself, "Why did this happen to me? What can I learn from this experience?" Instead of, "This is terrible," say, "This is a challenge that will help me grow." Fact, a study by the University of Pennsylvania, 2019, confirmed that reframing thoughts increases optimism by 32%. Example of application in life. Situation, you didn't get the promotion at work you were hoping for. Common reactions, disappointment, anger at the boss. Focus on what depends on you. What does not depend? The decision of the management. What does depend? Your reaction, further actions, professional development. The chosen reaction, I can use this situation as motivation to improve my skills and prepare for the next opportunity. Negative visualization, how to be ready for any challenge. What is negative visualization? Negative visualization, Latin for premeditatio malorum, is a Stoic practice of imagining the worst possible scenarios that can happen in life. Stoics used it to prepare for unforeseen events and reduce their emotional impact. Seneca wrote, "A person is not upset by the event itself, but by its expectations. If you have prepared for the worst, everything else will be easier to perceive." Why does negative visualization work? Reducing fear and anxiety. When we imagine the worst possible scenario, our brain becomes familiar with it and stops being afraid of the unknown. This allows you to prepare in advance and find solutions. Fact: a study by the University of Pennsylvania, 2017, found that people who practice negative visualization have 30% lower levels of anxiety. Strengthening emotional resilience. Regularly imagining negative events helps to develop resilience to stress and better respond to difficulties. We stop panicking because we already have an action plan in mind. Epictetus said, "Prepare yourself for difficulties so that they do not come as a surprise to you." Appreciating what you have, imagining the loss of what we have, health, loved ones, work, we begin to appreciate these things more. This reduces dissatisfaction and the desire to always want more. Fact: a Harvard University study, 2019, found that practicing negative visualization increases gratitude by 25%. Stoic approach to negative visualization. The Stoics fact: psychologists call this concept cognitive reappraisal, changing the way you look at a situation to reduce your emotional reaction. A Stanford University study, 2018, confirmed that cognitive reappraisal reduces stress levels by 35%. Methods of focusing on what is in our control. 1. The circle of control technique. This technique helps to visually divide situations into those that are under our control and those that are not. Draw a circle. Inside, write down what depends on you: thoughts, actions, decisions. Outside the circle, write down what is out of your control: weather, other people's opinions, the past. Focus only on what is inside the circle. Fact: a University of California study, 2020, found that practicing the circle of control increases concentration and productivity by 28%. Second, Stoic questions. The Stoics use questions to separate the controllable from the uncontrollable. Does it depend on me? What can I do now? How can I influence it? How can I change my attitude towards it? If the answer is no, let go of the situation. If it is positive, take action. Epictetus said, "If you can't change the event, change your attitude towards it." 3. Reformulating thoughts. This is a cognitive reassessment technique that helps to change a negative perception of events to a neutral or positive one. Instead of "why did this happen to me?" ask yourself, "why did this happen to me? What can I learn from this experience?" Instead of "this is terrible," say "this is a challenge that will help me grow." Fact: a study by the University of Pennsylvania, 2019, confirmed that reframing thoughts increases optimism by 32%. Example of application in life. Situation: you didn't get the promotion at work you were hoping for. Common reactions: disappointment, anger at the boss. Focus on what depends on you. What does not depend? The decision of the management. What does depend? Your reaction. Further actions, professional development. The chosen reaction: I can use this situation as motivation to improve my skills and prepare for the next opportunity. Negative visualization. How to be ready for any challenge. What is negative visualization? Negative visualization, Latin for premeditatio malorum, is a Stoic practice of imagining the worst possible scenarios that can happen in life. Stoics used it to prepare for unforeseen events and reduce their emotional impact. Seneca wrote, "A person is not upset by the event itself, but by its expectations." If you have prepared for the worst, everything else will be easier to perceive. Why does negative visualization work? Reducing fear and anxiety. When we imagine the worst possible scenario, our brain becomes familiar with it and stops being afraid of the unknown. This allows you to prepare in advance and find solutions. Fact: a study by the University of Pennsylvania, 2017, found that people who practice negative visualization have 30% lower levels of anxiety. Strengthening emotional resilience. Regularly imagining negative events helps to develop resilience to stress and better respond to difficulties. We stop panicking because we already have an action plan in mind. Epictetus said, "Prepare yourself for difficulties so that they do not come as a surprise to you." Appreciating what you have, imagining the loss of what we have, health, loved ones, work, we begin to appreciate these things more. This reduces dissatisfaction and the desire to always want more. Fact: a Harvard University study, 2019, found that practicing negative visualization increases gratitude by 25%. Stoic approach to negative visualization. The Stoics believe that life is unpredictable and we cannot control most events. However, we can control our reaction to them. How to practice negative visualization? 1. Choose a scenario. Choose an event that worries you or causes anxiety. It could be a job loss, illness, financial difficulties, or a breakup. 2. Imagine the worst possible outcome. Imagine in detail what could happen in the worst-case scenario. It is important not to avoid unpleasant details, but rather to accept them. What exactly can go wrong? How will you feel in this situation? What emotions will you experience? Seneca advised, imagine the worst so that you can be prepared for any outcome. 3. Find possible solutions. Ask yourself, what can I do if this really happens? How can I minimize the consequences? What resources will I need to overcome this situation? This helps to create an action plan and feel in control of the circumstances. Fact: a Stanford University study, 2018, confirmed that planning possible solutions reduces stress levels by 40%. 4. Realize your resilience. After visualization, realize that even in the worst-case scenario, you will be able to survive and overcome difficulties. Think back to previous difficult situations that you have successfully handled. Remember that most difficulties are temporary. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What breaks others will strengthen you if you are ready for it." Example of application in life. Situation: you are worried about being fired from your job. Negative visualization: imagine that you are being fired. What feelings do you have? What do you do next? Action plan: update your resume and look for new jobs. Use savings for the transition period. Upgrade your skills to improve your chances on the labor market. Realizing resilience: I have overcome difficulties in the past. I can find a new job, even if it takes time. Fact: psychologists have proven that people who plan for possible setbacks in advance are more likely to adapt to change. Mistakes to avoid excessive immersion in negative thoughts. It is important not to stay in them for too long. After visualization, you need to return to reality, focusing only on fears. After visualization, be sure to create an action plan to feel in control of the situation. Using negative visualization for self-torture is a tool for preparation, not self-criticism or pessimism. Self-discipline in action: how to stop waiting for motivation and just do it. Why is self-discipline more important than motivation? Motivation is a fickle emotion that comes and goes. It depends on mood, circumstances, and energy. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is a skill that can be developed and is independent of emotions. It helps to act even when there is no desire or inspiration. Epictetus said, "Freedom is discipline over oneself." Fact: a study by Stanford University, 2014, found that people who rely on motivation alone are 30% less likely to achieve their goals than those who develop self-discipline. Self-discipline in Stoicism. The Stoics believed that internal control was the key to freedom. They preached the practice of asceticism, self-restraint, which helped to strengthen willpower. Seneca practiced voluntary deprivation. He slept on a hard bed, wore simple clothes, and limited himself to food to learn to control his desires. Marcus Aurelius emphasized daily discipline. He woke up early to write his reflections and prepare for his duties as emperor. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not put off until tomorrow what you can do today. Have the strength to get out of bed and act, even if you don't feel like it." Fact: in his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius recalls how he forced himself to get up early, reminding himself that he was born not to sleep, but to fulfill his duties. How do you develop self-discipline? 1. Small steps. Start with the minimum. Many people fail when they set overly ambitious goals. To avoid burnout, start with small steps and gradually increase your workload. Seneca advised, "Don't rush to the big things. Start small, but do it constantly." 2. The 2-minute rule. This method is that if a task can be completed in 2 minutes, do it immediately. This helps to avoid the accumulation of small tasks and increases the feeling of control over your time. Example: answering an email, tidying up your desk, or putting away small items. Fact: a study by Oxford University, 2018, found that applying the 2-minute rule increases productivity by 20%. 3. Create a clear schedule. Stoics believe that structure helps to avoid chaos. A clear schedule helps to organize the day and avoid procrastination. Marcus Aurelius divided his day into several sessions, devoting each to a specific task. Seneca advised to set aside time for self-reflection and analysis of mistakes. Fact: a study by Harvard University, 2019, confirmed that people who plan their day complete 30% more tasks. The Pomodoro technique. This technique consists of working for 25 minutes without a break and then taking a 5-minute break. 4 such cycles are followed by a longer break. Why it works: focus. 25 minutes is the optimal time to focus without fatigue. Motivation. Knowing that a break is coming soon helps you avoid procrastination. Fact: a 2020 study by the University of Tokyo found that the Pomodoro method increases productivity by 35%. 5. Rewards for achievements. Motivation can be unstable, but rewards help to reinforce habits. Reward yourself for completing challenging tasks to reinforce your sense of accomplishment. Example: after a productive day, a cup of your favorite tea, watching a TV show, or going for a walk. Fact: a study by Princeton University, 2017, confirmed that a reward system increases the likelihood of repeating productive behavior by 50%. Mistakes to avoid. Waiting for inspiration. Don't wait for motivation. Act, even if you don't want to. Excessive workload. Don't set unrealistic goals to avoid burnout. Self-criticism. Don't blame yourself for failures. Instead, analyze them and move on. Marcus Aurelius advised, do not stop because of defeat. Get up and start over. Amor fati. Acceptance of everything that happens. What is amor fati? Amor fati is a Latin expression that means love of fate. It is a philosophy of accepting all events in life, both good and bad, without resistance or regret. The Stoics believe that everything that happens has a reason and is part of a greater order. Nietzsche's phrase, "My formulation for the greatness of man is amor fata," to desire nothing else, neither in the past nor in the future, nor forever. Fact: psychologists call this concept a cognitive reformulation that helps people adapt to stress and reduce anxiety. The Stoic roots of amor fati Epictetus taught that we should accept whatever happens as inevitable. He said, do not wish for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will be peaceful. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that we should love not only what is happening, but also what could happen. He saw this as the way to harmony with the universe. Seneca emphasized the importance of accepting fate, believing that resistance only increases suffering. Fact: a Stanford University study, 2015, confirmed that people who accept circumstances as they are have higher levels of psychological well-being. Why is amor fati important in the modern world? Nowadays, many people suffer from anxiety and stress due to excessive control over events that are out of their control. Example: you cannot control the weather, the behavior of other people, or global events, but you can control your reaction to them. Amor fati helps us let go of what is out of our control and focus on what is in our hands. Fact: a Harvard University study, 2018, found that people who practice acceptance of circumstances are 40% less likely to be depressed. How to practice amor fati? 1. Reformulate your thoughts. Instead of thinking, why did this happen to me? Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Example: if you've been fired from your job, instead of being sad, look at it as an opportunity to find something better or learn new skills. Fact: psychologists from the University of Pennsylvania, 2017, have proven that reframing negative thoughts reduces stress levels by 30%. Epictetus taught, it is not events that disturb people, but their perceptions of these events. 2. Focus on the present moment. Amor Fati teaches you to live in the here and now, accepting the moment as it is, without regret for the past or anxiety about the future. Example: during a difficult 2, focus on the present moment. Amor Fati teaches you to live in the here and now, accepting the moment as it is, without regret for the past or anxiety about the future. Example: during a difficult situation, focus on what can be done in the moment, not on what could have been. Fact: a study by the University of Cambridge, 2019, found that focusing on the present moment reduces anxiety by 45%. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The past no longer exists. The future has not yet come. Live in the present moment." 3. Visualize the worst-case scenario. This Stoic practice is called premeditatio malorum, foreseeing misery. The idea: imagine the worst possible scenario and accept it. This helps reduce fear and anxiety. Example: before an important presentation, think about what could go wrong and prepare for it. Fact: a Princeton University study, 2020, found that negative visualization reduces stress levels by 25%. Seneca advised, to avoid shock, foresee difficulties in advance. 4. Gratitude for everything that happens. Amor Fati is not just acceptance, but love for everything that happens. This includes gratitude even for difficulties because they make us stronger. Example: give thanks for failures because they provide valuable experience. Fact: a study by Yale University, 2016, confirmed that practicing gratitude increases happiness by 30%. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Love fate because every event has its own meaning." Mistakes to avoid fatalism. Amor Fati does not mean passive acceptance of everything that happens. It is an active acceptance and action within the framework of what we can control. Self-pity. Don't complain about your circumstances. Instead, use them to grow. Ignoring emotions. Acceptance does not mean suppressing feelings. It is important to recognize your emotions, but not to let them control your actions.